Huge news hits Piastri after massive sabotage. Shakes Mclaren during Hungary Grace. The 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix was supposed to be another smooth flex of McLaren's rising dominance, right? Instead, it turned into the most talked about drama of the season, and no, it had nothing to do with what happened on the podium. Yeah, Lando Norris stood tall with the trophy, smiling for the cameras, but if you looked closely, just behind him in the shadows of that celebration was Oscar Piastri. No champagne spray, no grinning selfies, just quiet, composed frustration. The kind of silence that says way more than any interview ever could. Now look, on the surface, McLaren had a brilliant weekend. Lando climbed from P5 to P1, closed the championship gap, and delivered a race masterclass. But when you dig just a little deeper, things start to look sketchy. This wasn't just some unlucky tire call or weather mix-up. We're talking about strategy decisions that left the championship leader completely exposed. Like, Oscar didn't lose that race because he was slow. He lost it because someone from the pit wall played a different game. Here's the deal. Early in the race, Oscar was in a great position, calm, calculated, and ready to pounce on Charles Leclerc ahead. And then boom, McLaren calls him in way earlier than expected, like way early. The goal? Undercut the Ferrari. Aggressive, sure, but bold moves are part of F1. Oscar came out ahead of Leclerc. Job done, right? Not quite. Because in doing that, McLaren locked him into a two-stop strategy on a track where overtaking is basically a myth. Meanwhile, Lando, he stayed out for 13 more laps. 13! In Formula One terms, that's not just a different strategy, it's a whole other race. Lando ran long, preserved his tires, and came out with track position and fresher rubber. Now ask yourself, why wasn't Oscar, the guy leading the entire championship, given the chance to go long too? Why risk the title contender's race while giving the chaser the better hand? Sure, McLaren will say it was a split strategy call, that circumstances demanded it, but F1 fans, we've seen this story before. When one driver becomes the marketing poster boy, suddenly the other starts seeing his strategy fall apart accidentally. And let's not act naive. McLaren's a British team. Lando's the British driver. A Lando Norris championship win would be a fairy tale story for McLaren and British media. So when Oscar's side of the garage gets the raw end of the stick, people notice. You want to know when it really hit? The final laps. Oscar was closing in hard. He had burned through what little tire life he had left and was now within DRS, breathing down Lando's neck. Then, turn one. Oscar lunges. It's a last-ditch move, bold and messy. He locks up. The car squirms. For a second, it looks like they're both going off, but Oscar pulls out. He backs off, and in that 1 second, everything became clear. He wasn't just trying to win the race, he was fighting for fairness or redemption, for proof that he wasn't just a number two. And then radio silence. No angry outbursts, no excuses, just a silent cool-down lap and a post-race interview where Oscar said, "I'm not sure that was the right call in the end." That's not just disappointment, that's a guy who knows exactly what went down but chooses not to drag his team through the mud. Still, the tension was undeniable. You could see it in his eyes and his posture in every clipped sentence. That's what makes this story so compelling, because it's not about who crossed the finish line first, it's about why one driver had the tools to fight while the other was left boxed in. McLaren's official stance? Just a racing gamble. That's what team boss Zach Brown told the media, trying to shut down the growing whispers. And yeah, maybe it was. Maybe they really thought that early stop would get Oscar's track position and open the door to a win, but the problem is, that's not how it felt. Not to the fans, not to Oscar, and definitely not when you watched the timing sheets and saw just how perfectly Lando's race unfolded, lap by lap. See, when you give one driver the longer stint and leave him in clean air while the other burns through his tires in traffic, that's not just a strategy split, that's a setup. And the numbers don't lie. By the time Oscar came in for his second stop, Lando had gained a massive advantage, not through through pace, not through on-track battles, but by sitting on a strategy that let him dictate the entire second half of the race. He didn't have to fight his way forward. The track came to him. The pit wall brought it to him. And maybe that's what stings the most for Oscar, not that he lost, not that his teammate won, but that it didn't feel like a fair fight. He's been the most consistent driver all season, no question. No drama, no politics, just raw speed and execution. The kind of guy you build a championship around. But in Hungary, it looked like his own team forgot that. The onboard radio feeds paint a strange picture too. During the race, Oscar's side of the garage was unusually quiet. No debates, no pushback, no late calls to switch it up. It was like his race was already mapped out before the lights even went out. Meanwhile, Lando's comms were filled with updates, adjustments, and flexibility. Could feel the difference. One car was reacting to the race as it unfolded, the other was just following a script. And that's what's dangerous, because once a driver starts to feel like the decisions aren't in his control anymore, once he senses the garage isn't fighting for him the way it fights for the other guy, you start heading down a slippery slope. Not just in points, but in trust. And in F1, once that trust goes, it doesn't come back easy. The paddock's already buzzing. Some say McLaren's just trying to avoid a repeat of past teammate explosions. Remember 2007? Same team, same tension? Others think they're slowly shifting support toward Lando, trying to make the transition smooth by pretending everything's still balanced. But fans aren't buying it. Social media lit up with side-by-side comparisons of the pit strategies, the lap times, the tire data, and the conclusion is loud and clear. Oscar was compromised. Even F1 veterans are starting to weigh in. Martin Brundle didn't sugarcoat it. Oscar will be seething, he said during the broadcast, and he's right. Not because he lost the race, but because he knows exactly how he lost it. He did everything right. He fought when he had to, managed the tires, took the risks. And still, when the dust settled, the race had been decided in a meeting room, not on the track. That kind of loss hits different. You can't just shake it off and move on, especially not when you're in the middle of a title fight. Oscar walked out of that paddock with a polite smile and tight shoulders, but make no mistake, he's not going to forget this, and neither will anyone else watching. Oscar Piastri isn't the kind of driver who throws helmets or storms off camera. He's composed, clinical, even when the stakes are boiling over, but there's something brewing under that calm exterior now. A shift. This race wasn't just a blip on the calendar, it was a warning shot, one that says loud and clear that the battle ahead won't just be fought against Verstappen or Leclerc, it might be fought within McLaren itself. And that's where things start to get real interesting, because this isn't just a championship run anymore, it's a power struggle. 2 drivers, 1 team, and only 1 seat at the top. McLaren has built a beast of a car. It's finally back in the big leagues, fighting for wins every weekend. But with that success comes the oldest headache in Formula One, deciding which driver gets the full weight of the factory behind them, and whether they admit it or not, McLaren has reached that crossroads. Marketing plays a part, so does nationality. Lando Norris isn't just another racer, he's a British star, in a British team with a fan base that adores him. Every win, every podium, every cheeky radio message, it all feeds into a brand that McLaren can sell, package, and ride all the way to the bank. That kind of appeal matters. It always has. And if push comes to shove, you don't have to be a genius to guess who the board would back. But here's the catch. Oscar has the numbers. Statistically, he's been the better driver all season. More consistent, fewer mistakes, smarter under pressure. If Formula One were purely a meritocracy, Oscar would be the guy McLaren builds their empire around. The problem is, F1 has never been just about merit. Politics, pressure, image, it all bleeds into race strategy when the title's on the line. There's still time for the team to course correct, to prove that Hungary was just a one-off misfire. But every race from here on out will be watched through a microscope. Every pit stop, every team radio, every tire compound choice, it'll all be scrutinized for signs of favoritism, and McLaren knows it. Zach Brown's post-race interviews were all smiles and reassurance, but that tight jaw said something else. The tension is real, and it's only going to grow. The question now isn't just whether McLaren can win the championship, it's whether they can do it without imploding from the inside. Because once teammates stop trusting the team, it becomes open season. Cooperation turns to silence, data stops being shared, it becomes every driver for himself. And in a sport where hundredths of a second matter, that's the beginning of the end. Oscar Piastri has a decision to make too. Stay silent and play the long game, or start drawing lines now before things slide further. Because one thing's clear, he won't get many more chances like this season. The car is good, the pace is there, but so is the politics. And unless he makes it clear that he's not going to be anyone's number two, he might find himself boxed in again when it matters most. There are 10 races left, 10 battlegrounds, and no more room for accidental strategy calls or vague team radio excuses. McLaren may say they're not picking sides, but the track tells a different story. And if they're not careful, that story's going to end with a broken team and a championship thrown away. Because in Formula One, you can only play both sides for so long before one of them explodes.